Welcome to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show, where you get advice you can trust from the Capital Region's leading experts in real estate and all related fields. From the latest real estate trends to the best mortgage rates, from curb appeal to home warranty, this is the talk show that will help you save and make the most when it comes to buying or selling your most valuable asset. Now, here's your host, broker and founder of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, the property shop, John Bevilacqua.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, the sneeze guard is down. It's official, Johnny. If anybody, the listeners probably don't know what we're talking about, but there was like a plexiglass screen that was separating the guest and
John.
John.
The old COVID guard, like you would see at the supermarket.
Pretty much, yeah.
Same type of deal. That's why it was there.
I can actually see our guest, Joe Mulone.
Good morning, guys.
You can see around the studio now. I know.
That's right. Johnny's amazing, like, this is a long time coming. This should have happened for a while.
It's been, let's see, 2020.
2020.
So, but this is February, almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years with that thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations, John. The weight has been lifted.
There you go.
The Magic Studio is now back to normal officially. So, and we can see our guest, Joe Malone. What's
Good morning,
up, Joe?
John. Good morning, John. Great to be here again this morning.
Good to see you.
Good to have you, buddy. Feeling like winter out there. 2 weeks ago, I was in T-shirt and like almost shorts. And
yeah, that's right.
It's a little chilly and snowy. There's not as much snow up here in Colony as there is in Albany. We got a little bit more down there.
Yes, in Scotia we got more too.
Scotia, too?
We're going to see some off and on flurries today.
Yeah, John's a weatherman. I forgot about that. So anyway, guys, got a good show today. Interesting topic we're gonna tackle. Joe and I we're talking about how, I don't want to say the market's softening, but it's definitely changing in a way that is, affecting pricing. I mean, I don't want to go out on a limb and say prices are dropping, but there are some indicators that are adjusting. Let's put it right. And what happens when these adjustments start to take place, parts of transaction kind of get a little wonky. In particular, we're going to be talking about the appraisal process and how that can affect a transaction. Right, Joe?
Everything affects the transaction.
Yep.
And there's a buyer, there's a seller, and then there's another party involved in a real estate transaction, and that's the lender.
And that's the lender, the bank. Which is, I was listening to Dave's show on the way over here, and they're talking about a lender that was asking for trust paperwork.
Yeah,
whoever that person was, do not go with that bank. I don't know what.
Good advice.
Yeah, I've never heard of a bank asking for trust documentation.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Don't go with them anyway. So listen, guys, we are going to get into it. Just to give you an idea why we're here. This show is Joe and I got up this morning to bring you guys, the listeners out there in the Capital Region or wherever you're listening. It's a live stream, so you could be listening in Timbuktu for all I know. But whoever's listening and those listeners, we're trying to give you guys the most up-to-date information, real estate tips, tricks, ideas, appraisal strategies, legal situations, financial situations, and just pretty much any information that you think that's relative to your home. It's what we've been doing for the past 20 years. Joe and I aren't bragging. We're just applying for the job of possibly selling or buying, helping you guys buy a home. It's what we've been doing, and that's what the show is all about. We're going to take a quick sponsor break. When we get back, we're going to hit the appraisal topic really hard after the break.
To schedule an appointment with John Bevilacqua to help you buy or sell your home, call 518-957-SOLD or go to johnnyhasthebuyers.com. John will be right back with more of the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show here on Magic 100.5 and AM 590.
Hey, it's John Tesh. If you're thinking of selling your home, let me take the stress out of deciding which agent to hire. In the Capital Region, the agent I recommend is John Bevilacqua, founder of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at the Property Shop. So for 2 decades, John has helped more than 2,500 families buy and sell the place they call home. That's a solid track record, one that's backed up by dozens of 5-star reviews. Hello. In fact, John is so confident in his marketing system to attract the right buyer for your home that he guarantees to sell it at a price and deadline you agreed to, or he's going to buy it himself for cash. And he provides that guarantee in writing. The agent I trust is John Bevilacqua, and he's the agent you should trust too. His name is his promise. Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. So write this number down. It's 518-957-SOLD. That's easy. 518-957-7653. Or go to JohnnyHasTheBuyers.com. I love that one. JohnnyHasTheBuyers.com, and you'll get your home sold guaranteed.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful. What's really the best rate? Which term makes sense? Hi, I'm Ben Forcucci at Freedom One Funding in Latham. We work with 10 different lenders who provide 100 different mortgage products. I'll listen to what your needs are, and then I'll do the work to find the right option for your particular situation. We have special expertise in helping first-time home buyers. So eliminate the stress and call me today at 542-LOAN. I'm Ben Forcucci from Freedom One Funding, and I'll do the shopping for you. Call 542-LOAN.
Hi, I'm Matthew Stonecipher, owner of Ace Home Inspections. Whether you're buying or selling a home, let your agent know that you want to work with Ace Home Inspections because you insist on the best home inspection services in the capital region. You can also expect a home warranty, pest inspection, and mold assessment included at no additional cost. You deserve better than just a guy in a truck with a notepad. At Ace Home Inspections, we are fully staffed and here for you when you call 518-727-7091 or visit us online at acehomeny.com.
If you're buying or selling your home and would like to schedule an appointment with John, call 518-957-SOLD or go to johnnyhasthebuyers.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show and your host, John Bevilacqua.
Okay, guys, so we're going to get into the appraisal topic here today. And before we get into it, I do want to let everybody know, listen, this is a call-in show, right, guys? So 476-9500, 518-476-5900. It's a direct line into the Magic 100.5 studios. Johnny G's on the switchboard, standing by. If you got questions about anything relative to real estate, call in. You got about 40 years of real estate experience in this room right now, and we are always open to questions. And in fact, we prefer you guys calling it because it just makes the show more exciting and it keeps us on our toes. So if you want to come call in, ask some questions, we would love that. Just some quick housekeeping. We do have an open house coming up tomorrow. Dave McKenzie, who you guys have heard on the show before, he's got an open house up on 12 Ridge Road in Gloversville from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Nice little split-level home. Got some folks relocating. House is in great shape.
Nice little area.
Got a
nice
full party
area,
basement, wet bar.
Oh, yeah.
It's got this interesting, grill thing. We still haven't figured out. It's got a
indoors?
Hood. Indoors. It's
okay.
it's an indoor grill with this hood. And
to vent it outside. I've seen those.
It's very 60s, but it's cool. It's it's a sweet house. It's in great shape.
Yeah.
Nice backyard, fenced in, and Dave's going to be there from 1 to 2, 12 Ridge Road in Gloversville. If you guys are up in the Gloversville area,
worth a look.
It's real close to the lake. Like it's and I think they're asking $249.
Man,
it's a steal.
Sweet.
It's a great deal. Anyhow, so just a quick housekeeping. But so Joe, I know a lot of people call into the office and they call us and they unassumingly ask, hey, we want to get an appraisal on our home. And for us, it kind of throws us off because we know the difference between an appraisal and what we call in the realtor business a CMA,
yes.
Right? What's the difference?
Well, that's a great question, John, because people ask us all the time about, what's my home worth? And what your home is worth on the open market is different than what the bank says they're willing to allow you on a loan.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to talk about today is that appraisal.
Right. Yeah, so the CMA is also called the comparative market analysis, okay? And it's what we try to figure out what we're going to list and price the house for so we can figure out what the market value, or what I like to say is what the house is worth, what somebody's willing to pay for it, right?
Yes.
And then the appraisal is the bank or an independent version of that value. So why it's getting wonky right now is that because the market's softening a little bit and there isn't as much inventory and there's so much confusion about what the Fed's going to do with the rates. Like last show we had been on, they're definitely lowering it this month. Now they're like, now we're actually going to start to raise it.
Yep.
So it's really just putting the market into turmoil. And when that happens, sometimes the appraisals don't come in, right? They don't come in at the value of where we're at under contract.
Last year I had a home that sold. It went under contract for $40,000 over the asking price, which was a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And what happened was we went to appraisals, and it went through the appraisal process no problem because prices were going up regularly on homes in that area. Now, homes are not going $40,000 or way above the asking price. They've kind of leveled off. They've plateaued, and now we're starting to see some price decreases. Not huge, but they're starting to go down, and which affects the market.
Right.
And that's can also affect an appraisal. And what happens is that let's say you still pay over asking price, and all of a sudden the appraisal comes in a little lower than what the list price was, and there's a gap.
Yeah, there's a gap. So that appraisal gap is what we're going to talk on the second half of the show, because there's strategies on how you can still keep your deal alive by bridging the gap, as we like to say, and we'll talk about those tips. But I kind of want to go over some rules of thumb that we like to do with. I'm sure you do the same thing, but what I like to do with my clients, depending on which side of the transaction I'm on, with the sellers and with the buyers, especially when we're in a multiple offer situation, right? Because multiple offers, it starts to become emotional. People are bidding the price up.
Absolutely.
We just had one happen in Colony that I had 15 offers on the property within. I had an open house. We had 50 people show up.
No kidding.
15 offers.
Wow.
And, the last one blew everybody out of the water by 50,000, right? So we were 50,000 above list price at that point.
Holy moly.
And then it just started coming down, going down to $1,000 increments. But when this happens, you got to set some ground rules with both, if you're on the buy side as the agent, you got to tell your buyer, hey, listen, we're getting you this house. I know there's nothing else to buy, but if you win this contract, just understand, if it comes, under the appraised value, the appraisal comes in low, we got some thinking to do, right? So we need to get something in writing in the contract that, right? Do you do this, Joe?
Absolutely.
With buyers?
There's people don't understand that the residential real estate market. There's a lot of emotion involved.
Yes.
People want a house, and they have been looking for a house. They've been outbid a number of times. Then they find that house that they really want to be in, and then they go for it.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, they're in a deal where they're above asking price. They're
throwing away their inspections.
Yes,
they're just throwing caution away. And they're willing to trade their
this is the one. This is the one. And it very well could be the one, but the bank isn't emotional about these types of things. The bank has to get the bank's in business to make money, and they have to. They're like the pressure relief valve in the process. They say, "Hey guys, tap the brakes a little bit here. We think the house is worth X because of the appraisal, and you think it's worth Y, and there's a gap there of what that number is." And we'll still give you the loan on this property, but you got to make up the difference. You got to come up with a little bit more cash to get this deal done.
That's correct. That's right. So going back to my point about working with a buyer, if we know we're $50,000 above the asking price, I'm going to do my best to say, all right, guys, in our offer, we got to make sure that this price is contingent upon an appraised value coming in close to what we're offering, right? If not, we want to spell out what the consequences are. So if I'm repping the buyer, I'm going in and saying, all right, okay, Mr. Seller, we will give you the $450,000, $50,000, which is $50,000 of the list price. But if it doesn't appraise, we're only paying the value of the appraised price.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's what we're going for. And that's kind of where the negotiation.
And then the seller may say, "Well, wait a minute. What are you talking about here?
Right.
You said you give me X. Right. Well, I have to finance this property. If you're a cash buyer, this is all irrelevant.
Doesn't matter if
it
it's
doesn't
cash.
matter.
Good point. Very good point.
If you have a big load of money, which was happening a lot during those COVID years, people were coming from downstate, upstate, buying properties cash, no inspections, boom. None of this comes into play because there's no third party. There's no bank. If you want to overpay for a property because you want it that badly, so be it. It's your money. You could do it as you wish.
Yep.
But when you're asking the bank to borrow money,
it's their money.
It's their money until yes. So you're working on this transaction together, and you have to come to an agreement on what the value of that property is. How much is it worth it to you to be in that property?
And the bank comes in handy, especially when you're working with a seller that kind of thinks their house is worth more than it actually is, because it's like,
sellers do that, really?
Oh yeah. So you go, well, I'll roll in with my comparative market analysis and say, well, I think your house is worth $400,000. Like, wow, I'm not taking less than $5. I'm like, okay, well, I appreciate that, but and it might be worth that, but at the end of the day, the bank's going to determine what it's really worth.
That's
Are you okay with that? Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, you guys say this all the time. Homeowners think that their property is worth more than it really is. Most people
constantly
believe that.
Constantly, yeah.
And no one ever listens to us.
Because it comes. But that comes from the heart.
It does.
And it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough. Yeah, it's tough to bring somebody down to reality. The last thing we want to do is
walk in your house and tell you that your house isn't worth what we think it is.
I know.
It's the worst conversation you can have. But at the end of the day, if you're hiring us to actually sell the house and not list it, right? Because there's a bunch of agents that will come in and they'll just list the house for whatever and then waste your time.
So people
and 6
need
months
to
later,
understand that. Yeah.
So it's a tough conversation, and we're using the show as to try to tell people, like, look, we don't want to not get you the highest amount of money because we're paid on commission. The more we sell for, the more we make.
But we have to be realistic. You got to be realistic with people, and you end up with a lot more happy people than if you just lie to people and say, I can get you X amount of dollars, and then you don't fulfill their expectations.
Let's hold that thought, Joe, because we already ate half the show. And we still haven't really gotten to appraisals. So going to take a break, and when we get back into it, we're going to talk more about appraisals and values.
Good.
To schedule an appointment with John Bevilacqua to help you buy or sell your home, call 518-957-SOLD or go to johnnyhasthebuyers.com. John will be right back with more of the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show here on Magic 100.5 and AM 590.
Buying or selling the place you call home can be stressful. When you have questions, you don't want to wait for answers. Well, for 20 years, Kim Salerno and her team at Salerno Law have built a solid reputation with buyers, sellers, and real estate agents as fast, respectful communicators. They know Salerno Law will protect their rights and respond quickly when a question arises. Trust Salerno Law. Call 518-309-3404 and check out their 5-star reviews at SalernoLawNY.com.
Hi, I'm Matthew Stonecipher, owner of Ace Home Inspections. Whether you're buying or selling a home, let your agent know that you want to work with Ace Home Inspections because you insist on the best home inspection services in the capital region. You can also expect a home warranty, pest inspection, and mold assessment included at no additional cost. You deserve better than just a guy in a truck with a notepad. At Ace Home Inspections, we are fully staffed and here for you when you call 518-727-7091 or visit us online at acehomeny.com.
If you're buying or selling your home and would like to schedule an appointment with John, call 518-957-SOLD or go to johnnyhasthebuyers.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show and your host, John Bevilacqua.
Okay, guys, we're back. And we just, I tell you, we bring up some good points when we're off the air. But Johnny just nailed it on the head. We continued the conversation about the appraisal gap, and we're talking about a property that it's going to closing now, but we had a $40,000 difference, and we knew that the buyer had the money to cover that $40,000 gap.
So you were okay.
And we had a strong position on the selling side to just say, well, the bank's going to give you $410. You got to cover the difference yourself. And they kept asking us all, will he lower his price? Will the sell?
Oh,
we came back to him and said, well, if the appraisal came in at $460, would it gave us the extra $10,000? Mm-hmm. Right? And
that's logical.
And end of the day, we won the gamble, and they're closing and paying the gap. So that brings us to the point of not only that this is a call-in show, so if you've got appraisal stories or you've got a situation in real estate that you want to talk to us about, we're all ears. We're ready to field your questions. 518-476-5900. Give us a call in the studio. But this goes, so now that we've kind of figured out the difference between appraisal and CMA, Joe, what are some strategies now? Your house is under contract, the appraisals fall short by 10, 15, 20, sometimes 40,000. What do you do?
Well, the first thing is to kind of sit down with if you're on the buy side, is sit down with your buyer and say, okay, how are we going to, can you make up the difference? You got to reevaluate the deal here.
Right.
Well,
before we make up the difference, we want to reevaluate the deal. Right.
Right.
So how do we do that?
Well, you got to, you look at the appraisal and you sit down and you say, okay, why did it come in at this number? And look at the comps again. And you could potentially get another appraisal done, a second appraisal.
You could, but let's work on the first appraisal, right? Maybe the appraiser went in and they didn't see the finished basement and the additional square footage, or maybe there was a bump out room that didn't get counted, or maybe they just,
appraisal. For people who haven't seen an appraisal, they're very detailed.
Yeah.
They're very detailed.
They're not easy to read.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
As I get older, the type gets smaller, it seems like.
Yeah.
And they show all the houses that they compared it against, and then they'll compare the house that they're appraising with those houses. And sometimes it's difficult for an appraiser to find comparable homes, and they have to go further out of the area that they were looking.
And speaking about areas, sometimes you get an appraiser that's not from the area, right?
That's huge.
Yes.
That's huge. If you're dealing with a bank that's not a local bank, they'll send an appraiser potentially from outside of the area. And you say, well, what's the big deal? Well, somebody comes from downstate, upstate, to even, they're in Columbia County, they're in Greene County, they're down there where the prices is different for particular homes, and they come into our area and they're trying to do an appraisal, and they don't have they don't have the same knowledge of our area, and all of a sudden you get a low appraisal. Or conversely, if you're on the other side, they could come back with a number that's high, that's like, oh yeah, it appraises fine, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it really doesn't.
Yeah.
Then you want to, the more local the person is, the more likely they work just that particular area, and they have that knowledge of the area.
Yeah, so we want to reevaluate the deal and look at the appraisal report and see what happened. Number 2, negotiate with the seller, right? You got a chance to go back to him. Like we said, like the bank is the stopgap, the pressure relief valve on a multiple offer situation, and the seller's got to understand that.
Yeah, the seller's always going to say, well, they're willing to pay that price.
Right.
They're willing to pay it, but that doesn't mean they can get the money to do the deal.
Right. That's right. And what the conversation we just had with John is, if they've got the money to cover the gap and we know it, then the seller's got the upper hand.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But if they don't, and they're only, let's say they're a first-time home buyer that's got limited funds,
they can't come up with it.
And they can't come up with a difference, then we got to go back to the seller and say, listen, if we kill this deal, we got to start all over again. Mm-hmm. And now we're coming in on a position of non-strength, right?
This happens sometimes with FHA or those types of deals, because the lower amount you're putting down, the tighter the appraisal has to be.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
If you're putting down 20% on a property, okay, you're not going to really usually run into appraisal problems, because there's enough of a gap, a margin there to make it up.
Yeah,
But if you're only putting 3% down, and all of a sudden the appraisal comes in low, oops, what do we do here?
Yep.
Okay.
And seller motivation comes into this too. Like the seller, like listen, I don't have to sell this property. Like, we can go on to another one, or another buyer, or try the market again. So that definitely comes into play, and working with the seller and understanding his motivation. Number 3, you can order a second appraisal. Like, listen, that's just one guy's opinion. Just like we get shopped by sellers with other agents to say, okay, what's this guy charge for commission? What's he going to price my home for? What kind of marketing he does? Mm-hmm. Do the same thing with an appraisal.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Appraisers have bad days just like everybody else, and they could have made a mistake. And you could ask an appraiser to revisit. Say, hey, how come you came up with this number? Explain it to me.
Yeah,
and they will. They will. I've had appraisers call me on properties that I sold and ask me, how come you got this price for that property? It seems really high, or it seems really low.
Sure.
Because they were looking at another property in the neighborhood, like they're supposed to be doing, and the numbers don't fit in some particular way. And a good appraiser will call a realtor, and they look up the comp and say, hey, how come this you didn't see the seller's concession on there?
Yeah.
And there was a bad septic system, and we had to give back $30,000. Mm-hmm. That's why the number's low.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the difference between a good appraiser and somebody who just came out of appraisal school.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that happens, right? Like you said, it depends on the appraiser you get. So you can definitely challenge the first one. And if the second one, if that doesn't work, then you can order a second appraisal. We got 1 minute before a sponsor break. Yep. If you order the second appraisal, just be aware it comes with a cost, right?
Exactly.
Appraisals aren't cheap. I mean, not really. Commercial appraisal could be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Residentials range anywhere from $300 to $700, $800. Mm-hmm. So just keep in mind, you're paying for a second appraisal,
right?
If you do order the second one, so and make up the difference. Like you said, if they've got the money to cover, then cover it. You can always make up the difference, and you can renegotiate your loan terms. So maybe you can call Ben Forcucci up from Freedom One and say, hey, listen, our appraisal came in short. Do you have any other programs out here where we can shrink our loan to value or increase our loan to value, to hedge the gap, to make the deal work? And then the last option I'm going to talk about after the sponsor break, which is the last And I don't recommend option because there's always a way to make a deal happen. We're going to talk about that right after the break.
To schedule an appointment with John Bevilacqua to help you buy or sell your home, call 518-957-SOLD or go to johnnyhasthebuyers.com. John will be right back with more of the Your Home Sold Guarantee radio show here on Magic 100.5 and AM 590.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful. What's really the best rate? Which term makes sense? Hi, I'm Ben Forcucci at Freedom One Funding in Latham. We work with 10 different lenders who provide 100 different mortgage products. I'll listen to what your needs are, and then I'll do the work to find the right option for your particular situation. We have special expertise in helping first-time home buyers. So eliminate the stress and call me today at 542-LOAN. I'm Ben Forcucci from Freedom One Funding, and I'll do the shopping for you. Call 542-LOAN.
Buying or selling the place you call home can be stressful. When you have questions, you don't want to wait for answers. Well, for 20 years, Kim Salerno and her team at Salerno Law have built a solid reputation with buyers, sellers, and real estate agents as fast, respectful communicators. They know Salerno Law will protect their rights and respond quickly when a question arises. Trust Salerno Law. Call 518-309-3404 and check out their 5-star reviews at SalernoLawNY.com.
Hi, I'm Matthew Stonecipher, owner of Ace Home Inspections. Whether you're buying or selling a home, let your agent know that you want to work with Ace Home Inspections because you insist on the best home inspection services in the capital region. You can also expect a home warranty, pest inspection, and mold assessment included at no additional cost. You deserve better than just a guy in a truck with a notepad. At Ace Home Inspections, we are fully staffed and here for you when you call 518-727-7091 or visit us online at acehomeny.com.
If you're buying or selling your home and would like to schedule an appointment with John, call 518-957-SOLD or go to johnnyhasthebuyers.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show and your host, John Bevilacqua.
Okay, guys, we're back. We got just a few minutes before we wrap up the show. I want to talk about the last thing that you should possibly do if you're in a situation, whether you're the buyer or the seller, and the appraisal comes in short of the asking price.
Right.
And the last option is to walk away. Walk away from the deal, which I don't recommend.
Yeah.
Because, listen, if you're working with a good realtor and they have a good team behind us, and I'm bragging right now because we know what we're doing in this situation, and we've got Ben, we've got Kim, we've got everybody on our side that can make this deal happen.
And that's the difference between an experienced realtor and an unexperienced realtor, is that when things go south, what do you do?
What do you do?
You don't necessarily just throw the everything down the dumper and start all over again. If you have the right team, you go back to the lender and say, "Hey, look, this is where we're at. What do? We go to the attorney. Can you give us an extension?"
Well, that's so true. Yeah.
You keep working.
Here's what it is.
You don't want it to fall apart at the closing because it will and could.
It could. We're
and then you're going to have all kinds of tears and
it's not so much that we're going to fall apart at the closing because we're not going to get into the closing.
You're going to avoid that
if we don't figure this out. But it comes down to how good is your realtor at negotiating, and it's not even about being good at negotiating. It's how does your realtor want to work? Because in this situation, you're making multiple phone calls. You're calling the bank. You're calling the attorneys. You're calling the buyer. You're calling the seller. You're working the deal, and that's what realtors don't want to do. They just want to put a deal together, go to the closing, and pick up a check. And if it falls apart, it falls apart. They don't really care.
Yeah.
We are not going to let that happen. And that's why walking away is the worst thing. That's the worst thing you can do because, A, there's going to be some legal consequences, and you have an earnest money deposit on hand.
And most people don't realize how snippy it can get when a deal falls apart and there's money on the money you put down in deposits. Yeah. People put money down for inspections. You got to figure it out.
You're paying for title, you're paying for legal, you got maybe. You can't really get into a deal with less than $5,000 deposit these days. So you're talking real money. Yeah. And we're talking about running out of time.
Yeah, I know.
We got to wrap up this show. Anyway, well, guys.
Thanks for having me on, John.
Thank you, Joe. We love having you on. Next week, we are lining up our guests. We've got somebody special coming in next week that's going to be new to the show that we're excited about. We want to thank everybody for listening. Johnny G, thanks for the opportunity. If you guys want to get your house sold, give us a call, 957-SOLD. That's 957-7653. And give us a call and sell your house today.
Have a great day.
The Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show is presented by Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, the property shop. Join broker and founder John Bevilacqua every Saturday morning at 8:30 to hear about the latest real estate trends here in the capital region, where to find the best mortgage rates, home insurance, home warranties, and more. To speak to John about buying or selling your home, call now to schedule an appointment. 518-957-SOLD. That's 518-957-7653. Or go to JohnnyHasTheBuyers.com. That's JohnnyHasTheBuyers.com.